Welcome back to Unapologetically Woman. We're celebrating phenomenal women all across Kentucky who make no apologies for their perspectives or the impacts that they're making in the community. Today we're celebrating my friend Kelly Ruff. Kelly is a teacher, a minister, and a licensed professional clinical counselor. Unapologetically Woman, Kelly Ruff, that's you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to celebrate you today.
I'm excited to be here. It's such an honor.
Okay, let me tell you. You're going to tell me. You are the oldest of the Ruff family. Tell me about your family.
I am the oldest of the Ruff children. I have a younger brother who is 15 months younger and a younger sister who is 5 years younger.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a big age gap.
It is.
Tell me about your parents.
I will. I am the daughter of George and Loretta Ruff. Both are originally from Louisville. My dad is a journeyman. He's been doing this work for years. He has been an awesome provider for our family. My mom has had the pleasure of being a stay-at-home mom and a caretaker for my sister who's special needs. And they have been amazing parents. They raised us in a godly household. They loved us and encouraged and motivated us to do and be what we are right now.
Speaking of that, how did you decide that this was the kind of work that you wanted to go into? Did you always know? Was it something that you found or something that found you?
It was definitely something that found me. I came to Lexington to go to UK to be a journalist, actually. And my first senior year, first indicating there were more, I went to my advisor and I said, look, this is not working out. I also discovered that you just can't graduate and go right for Essence. So that was a thing.
Okay.
And so I said, what do I have enough credits to get? And so she looked at my transcript and she said, well, you've taken a lot of African American studies classes, you've taken a lot of women's studies classes, and you've taken a lot of sociology classes like social inequalities. I said, bet, let's stir that together. What can we get? So I got a topical degree in gender and women's studies with an emphasis in social equalities and a minor in African American studies. Great. What do you do with that?
What do you do with that?
Go back to school.
Okay.
Which is exactly what I did. And I spent some time away from school. I moved back to Louisville for a year, came back and worked for the university. And me getting into the counseling program was definitely a God thing. I literally saw an ad in the South Starter newspaper on Sunday, took it to work with me the next day, called and made an appointment, saw her Monday afternoon. I was registered in class with books on Friday.
You're kidding.
Absolutely. And the amazing thing about it was I was not driving at the time. So I didn't start driving until I was 30. And I rode the bus from work to class.
Time out. You didn't start driving until you were 30?
I did not.
What was that about?
I went to a non-traditional high school, and part of the non-traditional piece of it is we didn't have school buses. And so we rode the city bus, K through 12. Everybody rides the city bus. And so the bus stop was right down the street from my house. I could look down the street and see the next bus coming if I missed one. So when I got to college, I went to UK. They had transportation. I had friends who had cars. I didn't really feel the need to learn how to drive. And so it wasn't until I was buying a house that my realtor was like, you know, if you looked at houses away from the bus line, you might have some more success. So I was like, guess I might as well start driving.
So you were about to get a house before you had a car?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the first day of class, one of the women in class stood up, Miss Lillian Sunday, and she said, does anybody live near Richmond Road? And I was like, she said, I saw this baby on the bus stop. She said she lived by Richmond Road, and she needs to ride home because it's too dark for her to be riding the bus at night, and she probably needs to ride in the morning too.
Miss Lillian took care of you.
She did, absolutely. And the young lady, Ashley, who took me to class and home from class that entire 2 years I was in that program.
Wow.
We became friends. We did lunch together. We shopped together. And it was definitely a God thing. Within a week, I had a program, I had books, I had funding, and I had transportation to and from class. Yeah.
That's it.
It was definitely a God thing. It was definitely this is what you should be doing. When I left journalism and got my degree in gender and women's studies, I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. Like, although it's very interesting work and very research heavy, I knew I wanted to help people. And so when I wanted to be a journalist, that's why I wanted to write, because I wanted to help people through my writing. And I realized there are other ways to help people, and this was it. This became my way.
And this is a big deal right now, because everything that has happened over the last couple of years, you know, usually or in the past, there's been like a taboo around people going and seeking services for their mental health.
Absolutely.
But, you know, COVID has opened that up and made it more more known and accessible, I guess.
I think there are a lot of strides being made in terms of behavioral health. People becoming more aware of their own need, being aware of the need for their children to have good mental health, and looking for non-traditional avenues to be able to explore behavioral health counseling. It's not just I walk into an office and I lay on a couch, a chaise lounge, and the therapist has a yellow notebook and they write down everything I tell them. That's not really what counseling looks like anymore. And it can look so many different ways. And because of that, it's so readily available. And now we're getting to a point where people are saying, if I am going to be well, it is more than just the food I'm eating. It's more than just my exercise. My mind has to be okay too.
Well, one of the things that you told me is love yourself well.
Yes.
Talk about that.
So one of the things that I learned as a clinician is that I can't pour from an empty pitcher. And so when I talk about self-care, when I talk about taking care of yourself, that's one of the things that I had to recognize first. I can't give all of me and then expect to be able to be well once I'm empty. Mm-hmm. And so as people are getting their behavioral health care needs met, that is part of loving yourself well. I recognize that there are things that I need to unpack. There are things that I need to heal from. There are things that I need to discover about myself. And doing that makes you a better person overall. It makes you be able to love other people well. It makes you be able to pursue the things that you've been limiting yourself from pursuing.
And do you find yourself challenging people in the counseling sessions?
I do, and that is very much a part of the process, is reaching out and saying, okay, this is what your life looks like. What do you want your life to look like? This is what you've been doing. What does that look like for the next 5 years? And being able to say, hey, there are some things that you have done well, but there are some things that you could be doing better. What are those things? And let's peel back those layers. And it's actually an honor and privilege to have people come in and say, I'm going to give you all my stuff and I want you to help me unpack it. And then I get to take it home and deal with it, because it's not my job. I get the privilege of saying, I get to walk this journey with you. And as a part of that journey, you get to do what you need to do to become the best you.
But how does that make you feel personally when people trust you with some of their deepest, darkest fears?
I will say it is literally an honor. Like, of all the clinicians that you could choose, of all the places that you could go, of all the places that you could land, the fact that you chose me is an honor. It's also a challenge because clinicians often, especially if they're not caring well for themselves, carry the burden of whatever their patients are sharing with them. And there are some patients that their lives really align to mine and my experiences. And so sometimes I have to take the time and be like, that was really heavy because I identify with that, or I know what that feels like, or I've experienced that. And so I have to be sure that I'm taking care of me too.
And so even a clinician has a clinician.
Absolutely. Okay. Every good therapist has a therapist. And I don't say that, I say that all the time, everybody can benefit from a therapist, but we do heavy work. The work that we do is not light. The responsibility that we take on to make sure that other people are caring for themselves well is something that we need to be able to go to a safe space. And in fact, we need to be able to say, here are the things that I'm dealing with, because we don't just have our patients' lives, we have our own lives that we're managing. And so when I close the office door, I still walk into other steps and stages of my life. And so I need to be able to manage those and have those conversations too.
And so do you think that when people come for counseling, that's not a sign of weakness, that's a sign of strength because they're trying to move forward? Because that's how I look at it.
And the way I view counseling is not any different than how I view medical care. If you broke your leg, I would expect that you go to the hospital. I would expect that you follow up with appointments. I would expect that you go to physical therapy. I don't think any different when it comes to behavioral health. If I have something that I need to address, if I have something that I feel like is broken or is not serving me well, I need to go get that taken care of. And then I need some follow-up care. And then I might need some check-ins down the road. Right? It's the very same thing to me.
A heart for people, a passion for restoration, and a spirit to serve. That's your motto.
It is.
Tell me about it.
So I was thinking about this a few years back as part of our project at church. We had to create a personal motto. And I thought about what are 3 core values to me. And one is service. I want to be a servant to others. It's part of my belief system. It's part of my professional. My job is not to give you unsolicited advice. It's to help process the things that you're experiencing and see how they're serving you well or not. And so I am in service to you. I wouldn't have a job if I didn't have patients, if I didn't have clients, if I didn't. So it's a service industry. Right. And so customer service is a big deal. Even when we're engaging people in a non-professional setting, serving others well is a part of who I am. I'm a lifelong learner, and so that opportunity to continue to learn, not only in the educational setting, but also from my patients or my clients that I'm serving, I learned so much from them that I would not have known had I not been in that environment. And then restoration is really important because I think it's a key to being whole. I think that oftentimes people don't realize how many things they need to resolve, how many things they need to restore, and them taking the time to do that opens up new chapters. Since COVID started, I've become an avid TikTok fan, and one of the things that I watch over and over is furniture restoration. And I think it's a great metaphor for our lives. You take something that it's been used and valued, and it looks like it's been worn, and it looks like it's not of use anymore, and you put it out on the curb. Right? Some people feel like they've been used and put it on the curb, but somebody lovingly takes it in and they strip it down to the bare necessities and they rebuild it, and the value increases because they've taken the time to revitalize and rebuild it.
Why do you think we hold on to baggage for so long?
It's a part of who we are. It's comforting. Think about something that you have in your home that you know you should have gotten rid of years ago, right? Why do you keep it? There's something to it that's important to you. Now, it may not have any value to anybody else, and when you're long gone, your children may shoot it right into the trash. However, for you, it's important. One of the things that as you're working to get to a healthier space, you recognize, I don't need this stuff to define me. I don't need these things. And who I am isn't shaped by the possessions that I have. And as we transition through challenging times, whether it's processing grief or we're in a time of war, right, understanding that becomes more and more important.
And so why do you think that we care so much about what other people think about us when really it's insignificant at all?
We care because we're relational people. And oftentimes we feel like if people are judging us, then that will lead them to reject us and we won't get to have those relationships. And so we care what people think because we don't want that to interfere with us having a relationship. Even if it's people that we don't know well, or even if it's people that we don't have to have an intimate relationship with, we still care. There's a balance to it.
Because I know I say, I don't care what people think, but then when I find out what people think, then I get upset.
Right, because you care what people think. And it's also, you never want to misrepresent yourself. You want the things that are important to you to be what people see. You want your true intent, your heart's intent to be what they see. And if they see something different, it is frustrating. It is like, that wasn't what I meant. That wasn't what I said. That's not how I am. And it's important for us to be able to communicate who we are in that way.
Okay, so tell me about the NAMI board.
Okay, so I am the board chair for the National Alliance of Mental Illness here in Kentucky, one of the largest grassroots organizations serving those with mental health and their families. So not just those who are dealing with mental health issues, also providing support and education for their families. Working on the board has truly been a joy because we get so much exposure to what it looks like in real life. As a clinician, I get a picture of behavioral health behind the office doors. Working with NAMI, you get to see families who have been really working and struggling and supporting years, but did not know where to go get resources and did not know what opportunities were available and did not know what therapeutic modality serves their population. And so we get to provide those resources and materials, but it's also giving power and authority back to those who are dealing with behavioral health issues. Being able to say, this is what well looks like for me. This is what unwell looks like for me. And because this is the whole of who I am, you get to accept all of that. So it's a great experience.
Kelly, we could sit here and we could go on and on all day, but I'm going to give you the last word because I enjoy talking to you.
Yes.
I'm going to give you the last word to young girls, young women who are aspiring and dreaming and thinking, maybe I want to be like Kelly one day. What would you say to them?
I always think about the question, if you could go back and tell your 5-year-old self something, what would you tell them? And 3 words always stick out. You are enough. How you were made, what you were created to do, all those things are already inside you. You're enough. You don't have to compete. You don't have to compare. You don't have to defend who you are. You're enough already.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
You're welcome.
You guys heard it from Kelly Ruff. You are already enough. Continue to join us as we celebrate other women just like Kelly in Kentucky who are making strides and changing things. I'll talk to you soon.